And so we often first built a church building, and we would use that as a school, a social center. Education was the most important facet of Black life.
The popular feeling is by no means averse to educating these people, but it is very strong against mixing them with the whites. And if this is insisted upon, it will be attended in this township with breaches of the peace. Ontario School Superintendent, 1846.
The Department of Education at that time legislated an act, the Common Schools Act of 1850, which stated specifically that separate schools would be established both for Roman Catholics and for Black students. The Separate School Act is part of the space which was allotted, and I would say allotted, to Black people in Canada.
North Buxton was a community that was established in 1849, I believe it was, of primarily fugitive slaves, as well as some free Blacks from the North as well. They settled on this 9,000-acre tract of land that was set aside for them. It attracted hundreds and hundreds of people at the time. The Buxton School was of such a high caliber that the white kids left their own school and started to come to this school. You know, it always had a minority of white children that went to it, but it was, of course, predominantly a Black school.
It is hereby certified that May Alexander has passed the entrance examination required by the Education Department for admission to a collegiate or high school.
Well, I went to school in the SS number 13 Raleigh School. That was a country school, but it was situated right in the community of Buxton. So that's where I went to school. It was a two-room school. My cousin was the teacher in the room with grades 1 to 4, the junior room, that's what they called it. And my aunt was the teacher in the senior room, and she was the principal of the school. You know, all my relatives went to the school, and so it was a great experience. I really enjoyed going there. Well, she was my great-great-great aunt. She was someone ahead of her time. She was a teacher. She eventually founded her own newspaper. You know, she's just kind of this mythic character.
A school for all. This is an institution wherein those least cared for can have ample instruction, side by side with those least able to pay. No complexional distinctions will be made.
We came upon this case of desegregation that took place in Chatham in 1891. It was a case that interested me because I saw that the Black community was taking a situation into its own hands and, you know, actually doing something about it, fighting it. You see, what was going on was that there was one school at that point that was set aside for the Black kids, and no matter where you were in Chatham, you had to go to that school. The first thing they did was they submitted a petition to the school board. So what happened then was they started direct action where parents would take their children to the actual school that they wanted them to attend. And of course they would be refused. It was like, you know, the civil rights movement in the 50s.
Chatham's Black School closed in 1891. Sandwich School, 1893. Harrow, 1907. Amherstburg, 1917.